Not all horror movies are meant to be good. Some are made to be so bad that they're actually amazing, or at least just fun to watch. From laughable monsters to cringeworthy acting, these films are the perfect mix of terrifyingly bad and hilariously entertaining. Today, we're taking a deep dive into the world of horror movies that are so bad that they're good. For today's video, we'll be discussing 2013's Texas Chainsaw 3D. Now, this is actually an interesting horror movie. It takes place almost 40 years after the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie from 1974. As the beginning of this movie picks up immediately at the end of that movie, we see the townspeople go after the Sawyer family for the crimes that they committed in the first movie. They form an old-fashioned mob and they surround the Sawyer house. They burn it to the ground, killing every last member in the Sawyer family. Decades later, we see a young woman named Heather who learns that she inherited a Texas estate from her grandmother. She decides to bring her friends along the road trip to investigate her inheritance. On arrival, she discovers that she inherited a mansion, but she has yet to uncover the terrors that lurk in the basement underneath it. Now, the plot alone sounds like they got something cooking. Alright, we're working with something here, but man, were we wrong. So this came out my sophomore year of high school. I was very much anticipating this movie. It's another film in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise with the iconic Leatherface. Granted, the only movies that I like in this franchise are the original from 1974 and the 2003 remake and its 2006 prequel, but I was excited for this movie nonetheless, especially with this movie being in 3D. We got R&B superstar Trey Songz, we got an up-and-coming talent in Alexandria Daddario, who before this movie I saw in the Percy Jackson films. Oh yeah, sign me up. But this is a film that immediately it'll have you scratching your head because again, this takes place almost 40 years after the original movie. We learned that Daddario's character of Heather, she's a relative of the Sawyer family. She's the baby that got taken at the beginning, but somehow, some way, her and her friend group, they're only in their 20s, which doesn't make sense because they should all almost be 40 years old. Talk about a plot hole.
Now there is one glitch in this that if the dates are correct, then there's kind of a 10-year gap where the main character's 25, she should be 35. I'm hoping nobody will hold us to accounts on that, but we wanted it to be a modern telling.
Speaking of the characters in the movie, I also think that at times, more so than not, they can be pretty cringy with some bad dialogue. And some characters more than others, they give straight weirdo vibes. The characters also make some of the most illogical decisions that I've seen in a horror movie. Like Heather, for instance, when she first encounters Leatherface, she's trying to run and evade him. So what does she do? She runs to a cemetery and hides in a casket. Sure, in the trailer, that scene looked pretty damn cool, but when you see it play out, nah, it's dumb. And then we see her boyfriend Ryan creeping around with her best friend. Now the two of them, they hear the ruckus from inside the barn and they go out half dressed trying to investigate. They yell, they scream out, and they draw attention to themselves, which has Leatherface going after them. Like, just imagine for a second if this wasn't a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie. Heather was outside, she tripped and she screamed, and she heard the two of them screaming from the barn, and she went over there and discovered that they were together. Like, you're half dressed, you're blowing your cover. Or fast forward in the movie, how about the cop that was FaceTiming Sheriff Hooper and Mayor Hartman when he went into the mansion to investigate? He went in the mansion against orders, getting himself killed, but not before he accidentally killed Nikki. Again, dumb decisions made by these characters, but I will say, although bad decisions, this does make the movie fun and entertaining to watch. And Trey Songz was most likely the biggest draw of the film because he is an R&B superstar, but the death that they gave him was a joke. Like, it wasn't even like he went toe-to-toe with Leatherface or something. Nah, his death was the result of a car accident, but hey, at least he had his seatbelt on. Not that that helped at all though. But again, it scenes like this that was so cheesy, they were cringy, but they were fun and entertaining, and this just adds to the campiness of the movie. I will say though, I think that this Leatherface may be one of my favorite Leatherfaces in the franchise. He's one of the best versions of the character for sure. Sure, he's older, but I do love his look in this movie. I still think he's quite intimidating in this film, and he has some solid kills. He's not on the same level as the 2003 and 2006 version, but he is formidable. But for a 3D movie, the 3D was pretty bad. I think we can all agree, and to be honest, this didn't need to be 3D at all. Like, they probably realized that they didn't have a good script on their hands, so they said, hey, what can we do to make this movie better? Let's make it 3D. But hey, that made the experience more fun, I guess. Speaking of 3D, we gotta talk about that carnival scene that took place in the movie. So it's the scene at the carnival where we see Leatherface just running around and chasing Heather, and she eventually clings on to the Ferris wheel. He then encounters Deputy Carl and he throws his chainsaw away at him and he runs away. That scene didn't do him any justice because it just looked goofy as hell. But aside from the inconsistent storyline, the many plot holes, the badly written characters, and even the poor use of 3D, but nothing, I mean nothing tops Heather's transformation in the back of the police car into becoming evil. But hey, I guess that's just in her Sawyer blood. And the cherry on top is moments later, we see her cousin Leatherface about to cut her in half until he notices her chest scar. And I know Leatherface isn't the smartest lad, but in that moment, I guess he comes to the realization that she may just be family and he lets her live. And then moments later, we get this iconic scene right here.
Hey! Hey!
Oh, look who's back.
That's right. Do your thing, cuz.
Texas Chainsaw 3D is one good time of a film, and if you said to me this is one of your favorites in the franchise and it was one of the best, hey, no arguments from me. Way back in 2013 when I first watched this movie, all the way up until now, I found myself enjoying this movie every time and revisiting it year after year. This is just a movie that I have a good time with despite all of its flaws. It has personality, it has charm, it has something that keeps drawing me in, which is why Texas Chainsaw 3D is a horror movie that's so bad that it's good. If you made it to the end of this video, I appreciate y'all for tuning in, and if you want to watch more content from me, go ahead and check out this video right here. And be sure to hit that subscribe button to stay up to date with all of my content, and I'll see you guys in the next video.